The Nth Room case was one of the largest online sexual exploitation scandals in South Korean history. Between 2018 and 2020, criminal networks used the encrypted messaging app Telegram to blackmail victims into producing exploitative material. Operators like Moon Hyung-wook and Cho Joo-bin ran numbered chat rooms, selling access to tens of thousands of users. Victims were often trapped through fake job offers and social media credentials, then coerced into silence. National outrage led to a massive investigation, resulting in the arrests of the key operators in 2020. Cho Joo-bin was sentenced to 42 years and Moon Hyung-wook to 34, marking a turning point in South Korean law. The case led to stronger protections and serves as a landmark moment in the fight against online exploitation. The murder of Junko Furuta in 1989 remains one of the most infamous and tragic true crime cases in modern Japanese history. It exposed severe gaps in how juvenile crime was handled under the Japanese legal system and profoundly impacted public discourse surrounding juvenile justice. Because the details of this case involve extreme physical violence, this overview focuses strictly on the verifiable legal and historical facts. Junko Furuta was a 17-year-old high school senior from Misato, Saitama Prefecture. She was well-liked and had already secured a job to begin after graduation. The events primarily took place in a residential home in the Ayase district of Adachi, Tokyo, belonging to the parents of one of the perpetrators. The perpetrators were 4 core teenage boys, Hiroshi Miyano, Joe Ogura, Shinji Minato, and Yasushi Watanabe, along with dozens of juvenile gang associates. On November 25, 1988, while riding her bicycle home from her part-time job, Junko was targeted and forced into a park before being taken to a hotel. She was ultimately transferred to Minato's family home in Adachi, Tokyo. In late November, to prevent an investigation, the captors forced Junko to call her mother and claim she had run away from home. Because of this call, the police treated her disappearance as a runaway case, rather than a kidnapping, halting proactive search efforts. For nearly 6 weeks, Junko was held captive in a second-floor bedroom, subjected to escalating physical and psychological abuse. Minato's parents were present in the house during this period, but failed to intervene effectively, reportedly due to fear of the juvenile gang. On January 4, 1989, following a dispute over a mahjong game, the situation reached a fatal escalation. Junko passed away later that evening from severe trauma. The group concealed her body inside a steel oil drum filled with concrete and transported it to an industrial reclamation site in Koto, Tokyo. In March 1989, the perpetrators were arrested on unrelated charges. During interrogation, details of the body were revealed, and it was located on March 29th. Because the perpetrators were minors, their real names were legally protected, and prosecutors were barred from seeking the death penalty. Hiroshi Miyano was sentenced to 20 years, while Joe Ogura received an indefinite sentence of 5 to 20 years. Shinji Minato and Yasushi Watanabe were both sentenced to 5 to 7 years in prison. All 4 individuals were released by the early 2000s, but multiple members have since been rearrested for separate violent offenses. The murder of 11-year-old Lai Hannah is a tragedy that has shaken the heart of France and exposed deep systemic failures. This chronological timeline traces the events from her disappearance to the national crisis that followed. Fleurance, in the Gers department of southwestern France, was a town that felt safe until Friday, May 29, 2026. At 3 p.m., Lai Hannah left her school. It was a normal afternoon, but she never arrived home. Witnesses later told police they saw her get into a vehicle driven by a 41-year-old local man. He was a familiar face, the father of one of her classmates. This trust likely played a role in her final moments. By evening, the family reported her missing. Police immediately launched a massive search and began collecting CCTV footage. On Saturday, May 30th, investigators identified the man from surveillance footage and witness statements. The suspect, Jérôme Barella, was detained. Simultaneously, the community mobilized to find Lai Hannah. Hundreds of volunteers and officers began extensive searches across fields, woods, and rural areas surrounding Fleurance. On Sunday, search operations expanded. Specialist units and aerial resources combed every inch of the countryside. Public concern reached a fever pitch. There was still no sign of Lai Hannah, and the clock was ticking. On June 1st, Barella was placed under formal investigation for kidnapping and unlawful detention of a minor. The judge ordered his pre-trial detention. Prosecutors were confident the evidence placed him with Laihana that afternoon. The investigation took a harrowing turn on June 2nd as the media began reporting on Barella's past. Reports emerged that a rape complaint involving a child had been filed against him just the year before, in 2025. Anger was building. People questioned why those earlier allegations hadn't led to more aggressive action. On June 3rd, details of earlier complaints against Barella became national news. The case was now a national debate. Prosecutors confirmed he had been the subject of multiple prior procedures. Political figures began demanding answers. On June 4th, the search ended in heartbreak. A body was found in a grain silo near Poicaskier, 15 kilometers away. The site was linked to Barella's past employment. The area was sealed off as the nation held its breath for DNA results. The confirmation came on June 5th. The body was Laihana's. Shock and grief surged across France. Justice Minister Gérald Darmanin stated the system failed to protect this little girl. The president agreed. By June 6th, the grief had turned into national anger. Calls for judicial reform were heard in every city. Organizations and politicians demanded accountability for how the previous complaints had been handled. On Sunday, June 7th, 6,000 people gathered in Florence for a silent march to honor her memory. Speakers called the tragedy a societal failure. Similar vigils were held across the entire country. Minister Darmanin ordered an unprecedented review of 70,000 child-related complaint files nationwide. This move acknowledged that the failures in Laihana's case might be widespread within the justice system. On June 8th, prosecutors from across France were summoned for urgent discussions about the systemic failures. Protests continued outside government buildings as more information about Barella's prior record emerged. The case dominated French politics. The judiciary defended its work while acknowledging the gravity of the crisis. New alleged victims and witnesses began to come forward with information about Barella's past conduct. On June 10th, the murder investigation continued. Authorities were still working to establish the exact cause of death. They were reconstructing Laihana's final hours, piece by piece, as Barella remained in custody. Laihana, age 11, disappeared May 29, 2026. Her life was cut short by a man who should have been behind bars. Jérôme Barella, the father of her school friend, is the primary suspect. He faces a murder inquiry that is ongoing. Let's look at the CCTV evidence. At approximately 3 p.m., Laihana was last seen after leaving school. Footage reportedly captured her approaching the suspect's vehicle. She knew him. He was a parent at her school. Minutes later, additional cameras showed the vehicle driving through town with Laihana inside. This is the last sighting. The car was tracked moving away from the school area. Authorities have withheld the exact timestamps for the investigation. Barella claimed he dropped her at the municipal swimming pool, but investigators found no evidence to support this. Crucially, no verified footage shows Laihana ever leaving the vehicle alive. This became central to the case against him. On June 12th, new details emerged. Jérôme Barella had been flagged by the US-based NCMEC long ago. The alert concerned suspected online exploitation activity, yet no intervention followed. The failure was international. President Macron stated that public confidence in state institutions is now at stake due to these apparent failures. He acknowledged that the handling of Barella's prior record was a disaster and promised full accountability. Let's look deeper into his history. In 2017, a mother reported Barella's relationship with her 17-year-old daughter. The case was dropped in 2018 when the girl stated the relationship was consensual, a missed warning sign. In 2021, Barella was fired from a school cleaning job due to inappropriate online behavior with a student. Despite the dismissal, it is unclear if any legal action was taken. He remained free to interact with children. In January 2022, he was accused of raping a 7-year-old at his home. The case was transferred to prosecutors. But in 2024, the case was dismissed due to a lack of verifiable medical evidence. Another opportunity to intervene was lost. The most devastating failure came in August 2025. The mother of a 10-year-old filed multiple counts of rape against him. The police file included medical reports supporting the child's claims. It reached the prosecutor in January 2026. But because of administrative delays, Barela was never summoned or questioned until he abducted Laihana. Now, the family of that 2025 victim is suing the French state and the Justice Ministry for gross negligence. They argue that if the system had worked, Laihana would still be alive today. The state is on trial for its silence. Additional reports indicate that both Barela's father and brother have also faced independent sexual assault accusations. It appears to be a pattern of silence, both within the family and within the institutions meant to protect the public. The Justice for Laihana movement is not just about one man. It's about a complete overhaul of child protection. They demand that sexual violence allegations be handled with the urgency and seriousness they deserve. The silo near Picasquier has become a temporary memorial, a place of deep sorrow and a call for a safer future. How many more warnings were needed? How many more files were left on desks while children were at risk? The review of 70,000 files is a start, but the nation watches to see if real change will follow. Forensic work continues to establish the exact cause of death and the precise timeline of Laihana's final hours. Laihana's death has become one of France's most consequential criminal cases. Her name is now a call to action. Her legacy is the demand for a world where every child is seen, heard, and most importantly, protected. The suspect remains in custody, but the true trial is for the system itself. France cannot afford to forget. We must ensure that Laihana's story is the catalyst for the reform that will prevent another tragedy. For Laihana and for every child whose voice was not heard, we will keep her memory alive. May she rest in peace, and may her name bring the justice she was so tragically denied. A national tragedy, a call for change, the case of Laihana, reported and reconstructed based on the events of June 2026. Johannesburg mass shooting: a full case breakdown of the Cleveland tragedy. On the night of June 9, 2026, a mass shooting in the Jumpers informal settlement left 12 people dead and 9 injured. Police described it as one of South Africa's deadliest shootings this year, a coordinated assault by a large group of gunmen. The attack occurred in Jumpers, an impoverished community built near abandoned mining land east of central Johannesburg. This area has long struggled with poverty, illegal mining, and the influence of organized crime. Before 11 o'clock p.m. that night, residents reported a normal evening. There were no warnings or known threats. Around 11:10 p.m., more than 10 armed suspects arrived in a white Toyota Quantum minibus. Investigators say the group allegedly split up, entering the settlement through multiple access points. The attackers began firing rapidly at several locations. Witnesses described the gunfire as sustained and terrifying. Police stated that the victims appeared to have been targeted indiscriminately across multiple sites. 11 victims were declared dead at the scene. Another tragically died later in the hospital. 9 others were wounded. The victims included both men and women. Their identities have not yet been fully released to the public. After the shooting, the suspects fled in the same vehicle. No immediate arrests were made as the killers vanished into the night. A large-scale manhunt was launched immediately by the South African Police Service as the investigation began. Investigators are examining several motives, including potential conflicts within illegal mining gangs known as Zama-Zamas. Other possibilities include organized crime retaliation or territorial disputes within dangerous criminal networks. Police believe at least 10 gunmen were involved, though none have been publicly identified or arrested. Evidence being reviewed includes ballistic reports from the crime scene and numerous witness statements. Authorities are also analyzing vehicle tracking information and CCTV footage from surrounding roads and businesses. This case is highly significant. It ranks among South Africa's deadliest mass shootings of the year. It has renewed the national debate about security and the proliferation of illegal firearms in informal settlements. As of mid-June 2026, the motive remains under investigation and the SAPS manhunt is still active. 12 people are confirmed dead, 9 are injured, and a community is left reeling from the violence. The investigation continues as South Africa seeks justice for the victims of the Jumpers settlement. Stay tuned for updates on this developing case. Thank you for watching. As of June 12, 2026, the investigation into the killing of Javon Oyola remains an active homicide case in Norristown. While the case is active, investigators moved quickly, arresting a suspect within hours of the shooting on June 3rd. 16-year-old Alex Herrera has been charged with first and third-degree murder, along with several firearm-related offenses. The charges include possession of a firearm by a minor, carrying without a license, and possessing an instrument of crime. Authorities believe the shooting followed a series of confrontations between two groups of teenagers, suggesting it was not a random attack. To understand what happened, we must reconstruct the events of that evening, starting in the late afternoon. Between 4 o'clock and 6 p.m., Alex Herrera reportedly met with friends to discuss an ongoing beef with a rival group. During this meeting, Herrera allegedly brought a Glock 23 handgun he had recently acquired. As the evening progressed, the two groups began arranging a series of confrontations across the town. Police activity in the area forced the groups to repeatedly change locations, but the tension only continued to build. The first known meeting occurred around 7 p.m. While no gunfire was reported, the groups quickly relocated. By 7:45, a second fight took place at another location, but again, the groups separated before things turned fatal. Despite these pauses, the groups regrouped for a third and final confrontation near West Marshall Street around 8:25 p.m. Witnesses reported a large group present near George Street and Hawes Alley as physical fighting broke out once again. Shortly after 8:30, the situation escalated rapidly. A shot was fired, and 15-year-old Javon Oyola was struck in the head. Panic erupted instantly. Social media videos captured the heartbreak as teenagers screamed and cried near the victim. Surveillance footage reportedly captured the alleged shooter fleeing north on George Street, concealing something in his waistband. A key piece of evidence was left behind at the scene, a cell phone allegedly belonging to Alex Herrera. Police arrived minutes later, finding Javon on the ground. He was transported to the hospital, but later died from his injuries. At the scene, detectives recovered a fired .40 caliber cartridge casing and a live round, building their case. Around 9 p.m., an officer encountered Herrera nearby. He was walking awkwardly and gave a false age to the police. In a later interview, Herrera reportedly admitted to firing the weapon, claiming he was being attacked by the opposing group. These claims of self-defense have not yet been tested in court as the legal process continues. Despite search warrants, the murder weapon has not yet been publicly reported as recovered by the authorities. Both the victim and the accused attended Norristown Area High School, leaving the student body in deep grief. Community leaders have described this loss as devastating, and security precautions have been implemented at the school. Prosecutors and police continue to investigate the source of the firearm and the circumstances of that tragic night. As of today, Herrera remains charged, and the community continues to seek justice for Javon Oyola. We will continue to follow this case as new developments emerge. Thank you for watching this detailed reconstruction. The murder of 11-year-old Laihana in southwestern France has become one of the country's most significant controversies of 2026. Triggering nationwide protests and intense scrutiny of the French justice system, the case has shaken the foundations of public trust. But what exactly happened in the town of Florence, and why is there so much anger directed at the authorities? It began on Friday, May 29, 2026. Laihana left her school in Florence but never made it home. Witnesses and CCTV later showed her entering a vehicle driven by a 41-year-old local man, Jerome Barella. By Saturday, the suspect was in custody and a massive search operation was launched across the Gers countryside. Hundreds of officers and volunteers scoured fields and rural areas, but as the days passed, concern grew into desperation. On June 1st, Barella was placed under formal investigation for kidnapping, while the search for Laihana continued. The search ended in tragedy on June 4th. Investigators located a body in an abandoned grain silo several miles away. The site was linked to where the suspect had previously worked. Forensic DNA testing soon confirmed the identity. As the nation grieved, a more disturbing truth emerged. Jerome Barella was not a stranger to the authorities. It was revealed that he had been the subject of multiple earlier complaints involving sexual violence against minors. Most significantly, a rape allegation filed in 2025 had reportedly not been acted upon before Laihana disappeared. Justice Minister Gérald Darmanin publicly admitted the system had failed to protect the young girl. President Emmanuel Macron echoed the sentiment, describing the failures as unacceptable and demanding accountability. France's response was swift. Thousands gathered in Florence for a silent march, their grief turning into a demand for change. Similar vigils were held in over 150 towns, with protesters carrying signs calling for the reform of child protection laws. The case has transformed from a criminal investigation into a national crisis regarding judicial delays and bureaucratic traps. In response, authorities announced a massive review of approximately 70,000 ongoing cases involving violence against minors. The government promised reforms aimed at speeding up investigations and improving support for victims of sexual violence. The central question remains, could Laihana's death have been prevented if earlier allegations were investigated more quickly? Laihana has become a symbol of a wider concern, a plea for a system that values the safety of children above administrative ease. As of mid-June 2026, the suspect remains in custody and government inquiries into the failures continue. Public demonstrations show no sign of stopping as the nation waits for justice and real structural change. The case of Laihana is a tragic reminder that justice delayed is often justice denied, and the cost is far too high. France will not soon forget Laihana, nor the lessons her story has forced the nation to confront. In 2003, Seoul was gripped by the shadow of the raincoat killer. Yoo Young-chol, a man with a deep criminal history, began a spree that would change Korea forever. He first targeted wealthy elderly residents in expensive homes. When police pressure grew, he shifted his focus to sex workers, murdering at least 20 people in total. A pattern of missing women finally led massage parlor staff to alert the authorities. In July 2004, Yoo was captured and eventually confessed to his crimes. Sentenced to death in 2005, his case exposed major investigative failures and led to a revolution in criminal profiling across South Korea. Explore the full story in Netflix's The Raincoat Killer. We remember the victims as we strive for a safer future. This is the breakdown of a predator. The murder of 12-year-old Bobby Bloomfield, a tragedy that has shaken the community of Pilgrim's Hatch in Essex. On Sunday, June 7th, 2026, emergency services were called to Ashwells Road after reports of a vehicle striking a child. Officers found young Bobby Bloomfield with catastrophic injuries. Despite hospital care, he tragically passed away that evening. What initially appeared to be a collision was quickly escalated into a murder investigation by the Serious Crime Directorate. That same evening, a 15-year-old boy and a 43-year-old man were arrested on suspicion of murder. By Monday, police confirmed the murder investigation and began a massive review of CCTV and witness evidence. On Tuesday, the victim was identified as Bobby. His family described the loss as every parent's nightmare. Detectives obtained extended detention warrants for the suspects, emphasizing the complexity of the ongoing evidence review. On Wednesday, 43-year-old William Lunnan and the 15-year-old boy were formally charged with Bobby's murder. 4 others were also arrested on suspicion of perverting the course of justice in connection with the case. By Thursday, both primary suspects appeared before magistrates and were remanded in custody pending further proceedings. Police have confirmed that Bobby suffered fatal injuries in an incident involving a vehicle, now treated as murder. The investigation continues into the alleged interference by 4 others who were arrested alongside the main suspects. Reports suggest Bobby may have been on private land before the incident, leading to a confrontation involving a vehicle. These allegations are yet to be tested in court. Many details remain restricted due to active criminal proceedings. Investigators are examining extensive CCTV footage, witness statements, and forensic evidence from the scene. Authorities have asked residents to check their own recordings between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. on the day of the tragedy. As of today, the case remains in its early stages as detectives establish the full sequence of events. While many details remain unknown, here is the reconstruction of events on Sunday, June 7th. Bobby's exact movements during the day remain a mystery, though he was seen in Ashwells Road by 5:35 p.m. At 5:40 p.m., the first reports of a collision reached Essex police. Help arrived within minutes. Advanced trauma treatment began immediately at the scene before Bobby was transported to the hospital. Despite every effort, Bobby passed away later that evening, and the search for answers began in earnest. A tragic loss for a family and a community. We will continue to follow the investigation as it unfolds in court. On June 6, 2026, a mass shooting near the Old West End Festival in Toledo left 12 people wounded, with victims ranging from ages 14 to 61. The shooting erupted around 5:30 p.m. near the festival grounds. Authorities believe at least 2 gunmen exchanged fire, catching bystanders in the crossfire. Emergency teams transported the wounded to nearby hospitals within an hour. 2 victims were initially reported in critical condition. A major manhunt is underway. Police are reviewing surveillance footage and interviewing witnesses, including a Navy veteran who rendered first aid. Following the violence, the remaining festival activities were canceled. Governor Mike DeWine and city leaders have pledged full cooperation. As of June 7th, no arrests have been announced. Authorities urge anyone with information to come forward, stay informed, and stay safe. Who was Annabelle Rook? A 46-year-old humanitarian and co-founder of Mama Sue's, dedicated to helping vulnerable women. Friends and family described her as a beacon of hope for disadvantaged people and victims of abuse. But on June 17, 2025, a major gas explosion in North London revealed a horrific scene inside a local home. Officers discovered Annabelle Rook dead from multiple stab wounds. Her partner, Clifton George, was found nearby. Prosecutors revealed a relationship in decline. Rook had become increasingly fearful of George's controlling behavior. Evidence showed she had recently asked him to move out, fueled by financial disputes and his volatile temper. During a final argument, George attacked her, attempting to strangle her before fatally stabbing her. Following the murder, he triggered a massive gas explosion to destroy evidence and neighboring properties. The timeline of events is chilling. By early 2025, Rook was already discussing her fears with her family. By spring, she was seeking legal advice to arrange for George to leave their home once and for all. Then, June 17th. Shortly after 5 a.m., the explosion destroyed the property, leading to George's arrest. A trial was held in mid-2026, leading to a swift jury conviction for murder and arson. The evidence was overwhelming. First, George's own admission. "I killed her," he told responders. Second, a history of abuse documented in voice recordings and notes where Rook described her intimidation. Third, medical evidence showed multiple stab wounds, proving a clear intent to take her life. And fourth, the explosion. Prosecutors argued it was a calculated attempt to destroy evidence. George admitted the killing, but denied murder, claiming a loss of self-control during the argument. But the judge ruled that his history of aggressive behavior made that defense completely unavailable. On June 3, 2026, after only 2.5 hours, the jury returned their verdict: guilty. Guilty of murder and arson with intent to endanger life, a total rejection of his manslaughter claim. Rook's family spoke of her compassion, mourning a woman who gave everything to help others. Her father shared the devastating impact of the murder and the deep regret of not intervening sooner. Why did this case grip the nation? It involved a respected leader in a field that supports abused women. It highlighted the terrifying reality of coercive control and the dramatic lengths a perpetrator would go. The case became a high-profile example of domestic homicide trials in the UK for 2026. As of today, Clifton George is behind bars awaiting his final sentencing on June 9th. The legacy of Annabelle Rook lives on through Mama Sue's and the countless lives she touched. A story of dedication, tragedy, and finally, justice in the face of brutal violence. Rest in peace, Annabelle. Thank you for watching this breakdown of a landmark case. Stay tuned for more case breakdowns. Justice has been served in Stoke Newington.